Okay. Can you guys see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I sent out two project descriptions. Okay. One had to do with this is what we're going to cover next week. So it's or I'm sorry, middle of the week, drawing number 2 of the elliptical form. And as you can see, a cup looks simple or a bowl looks simple, but there's a lot of kind of perspectival issues in there that we need to think about. Proportion, visual measurement, all that stuff. Not easy. This is a drawing a cup or a bowl. Might look like it might be an easy thing to do, but in fact, it's probably schematically, analytically, probably one of the most difficult things to draw. The circle in perspective, and then if it is a cylinder. So like a coin setting on a table or a round table. It's not a cylinder, it's just a circle in perspective, right? You're looking across it. That's what the opening of the vessel is, of course. But then the cylinder, in this case, it's a bowl, so it's a tapered cylinder, right? So you got to deal with the roundness of the bottom, the roundness of the plate, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a whole scheme around how to figure that out, okay? We're going to deal with that. Now, I'm kind of doing it backwards in a certain way. We should think about how to draw the bowl or the cup in perspective in the correct way to begin with, maybe. But then what I want to teach today is the value relationships, how to draw something, the form of something, right? So as is the case with anything in art, you can't teach everything at one time. So what I'm going to do is focus a little bit more on the form related issues today using that scribble technique, value, light, dark, highlight, shadow, all that sort of stuff. And say kind of to hell with the structural issue to somewhat, okay, to some extent. And then we'll go back and do a outline drawing on Wednesday to kind of really learn how to do that. And the reason I'm not throwing all the kind of perspective stuff in at you to begin with is because I just want you to kind of let go a little bit with the scribbles. If you're being too conscientious about like getting the perspective right on this bowl or cup or whatever you choose to draw, then it gets in the way of the mark making and the visualization of how to render edge without outline. Okay, which is part of this whole thing. Okay. So then what we're going to cover today is this drawing number 1, project number 7 again, but drawing number 1 of project 7. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time with you today because I want to give you some time to work on this. Okay, when we leave this meeting. Okay, so hopefully you can have a couple hours to work on it. You can either do a full sheet or a half sheet. Okay, and all I'm going to ask you to do, you can use, by the way, let me get this, if I can find it here. If you want to use, this is I took a picture of this cup. It's hard to take a good picture of, getting the lighting just right and everything else. It looks simple, but it's not. So I rolled paper up behind it. So we're going to be talking more about that when we go ahead and do our. If you want to draw from a life-based observation of your own bowl, it has to be a white bowl, a white cup. I want it white on white. But to get the right shading to start to occur with a cylinder, cross light with a cylinder, that's a difficult thing. And so what it requires is a neutral background, a white sheet of paper for the background, okay? So this is kind of a nice introduction to how to kind of create a clean background. Now, if you want to do your own drawing, scribble drawing of the vessel, a bowl, a white cup, or whatever, a mug, or whatever it is, you can do that. Or this is the only time I'll offer this up to you. You can use this photograph I sent along with the project descriptions this morning, okay? So you can use that as your source, okay, rather than setting up your own thing for this one. Wednesday, I'm going to have you set your own up and draw it from real life, okay? All right, so I'll leave that up to you. Because the main thing I want to focus on here is this value creation of value in the drawing, okay, the lights and darks. A cylinder has a particular an open-ended cylinder, which a bowl is. It's just tapered, right? It gets a little smaller there, right? Has a particular way that it deals with cross lighting. Okay, so we haven't talked a lot about light because we've been more in the analytical things here. But light is everything, right? Without light, you see nothing. And then, so the converse is true. It is everything, right? So, from which direction do you think the light is coming in this photograph here?
From the left.
From the left, yeah. What gives you that?
Because the inside is this part here is light, and the outside part is light.
Right. Right. Yeah, go ahead. What else?
And the handle is light. Right. And the dark parts, the cast shadow and the shadow on the cup are
on the right-hand side.
Right, and the light isn't hitting that at all.
Yep. So you got to think about what light's doing. It's coming from the left here, being sheltered here. You know, there's no light getting in here and hitting here. Light coming, hitting the outside here and being sheltered over here. It seems pretty obvious, but you know, not, you know, some students have trouble with that. And that's called a modeling shadow, the way the light changes from light to dark across a curved surface. Interior curved as well, modeling shadow, light to dark. Cast shadow is the thing that the shadow that's cast or that's projected onto a different surface, okay? We'll be dealing more with this in the future, but this is just kind of getting your feet wet sort of thing. Even the handle here has this modeling shadow, right? You know, light on this side and dark on this side, okay? How do we see the light of this interior? Why can I differentiate that from the white of the background? They're both white.
Is this where you used your kneaded eraser?
No, we're not going to erase in this one. So no eraser. I'm talking about just the, this is a photograph. So just in the photograph, how is it that I can tell that this is the interior of the cup here? Just look at the photograph and this is the background. What gives me a clue between the two?
There's more shading in the background. It's a little
darker, right? Yeah, it's just a little darker. The background's tonality is just a little bit darker than the interior here, right? So we would call this a highlight and this a medium maybe value here, right? Okay. This is called relative value. Okay, it's one value relative to the other. There are no absolute whites in this photograph, except for maybe what?
The shiny part, the shiny.
Yeah, these tiny little shiny parts right here. They're probably not even in this. It's probably not even as white as the border here, right? But we might call that a 0 on a scale of 1 to 10, 0 being absolute white and 10 being absolute dark black, right? Here, though, that's up into, you know, if this is 0, this is definitely out here 3, maybe 3 or 4. I don't know. This might be 2, 3. Is there a 10 on the value scale?
The under the top.
Maybe that right down in there, right where that really dark shadow is, right near the cup, right? And as this shadow fades off, ambient light comes in and this gets lighter, right? So studying the way light, you know, Monet, right? Monet was, of course, he used color, but, you know, the great impressionist, you know, they studied the way light affected the world, you know. So as a really good artist, you got to be aware of that stuff, okay? So we're moving from structure to light, and light kind of infers form. So we're moving from flat shape structure to form related issues here with the development of this drawing, okay? So I have embedded in that let's see here, where is it?
What What grade of pencil do you want us to use?
Number 2H.
A
Or
2H.
yeah, I'm sorry, an HB would be good. Okay,
Okay.
an HB would be good. So I have a couple of, I have some videos embedded in that project description I just sent out. I did a number, I offer a series of videos. There's a little bit of redundancy. Each is a little different take on it, so I would suggest if you have the time to kind of take a look at that. This one I did on my iPad. So it's kind of nice. This is how long, of course I've sped up this is a 15-minute. So you can't see me draw the pencil on this, but what I'm doing is I'm just letting scribbles together. Now I started with a white clean sheet of
Paper.
Well, it's not a sheet of iPad because it's done on the iPad. But so I'm gathering my marks. I'm doing that real light scribble. Let's just watch for a few minutes and see what happens with this if it's running. Is anything happening?
Yeah,
Yeah,
at the top,
yeah,
on the top area.
Yep, I know. But
Oh,
but this is how your drawing needs to develop. Okay, it's like watching the paint dry. It's like watching the crops grow. Okay, if you get in a hurry with and this is sped up. I think I sped this up maybe 2 or 3 times. So.
How long do you want us to spend on this drawing?
An hour and a half, 2 hours, maybe something like that. Okay, so it's not a ton of time, okay, because I'm going to try
2.5 hours?
Yeah, 2.5 hours would be good, yeah.
So just piling on light scribbles.
Yeah, it's just layering. Yeah, it's
just to make the darker shading.
That's it. Yeah, that's it exactly. But you got to know when to stop and when to go, right? You can't. I don't want you to race in this. So how did I make the interior? Just what we just talked about. How do I make that look lighter in my drawing?
By darkening behind it.
That's right. How do I make the interior on the left side look darker? The right side.
You put more layers of scribbling.
How do I differentiate that from the background?
I mean,
how do I differentiate that shaded interior part from the background?
The non-scribbled edge of
That's
the two.
right. Yeah, I let up on there, right? So I let up there, right? So over here, do I have scribbles though?
Yeah, yes.
Yes, yeah. You want to create a consistency in the language. So that's why I want you to first lay down, spend really lightly though, okay? Lay down now if you had trouble with that, Jeremy, you haven't done it yet, so you got to expect some hit and misses.
I'll catch up on this, but
okay.
I do know the concept.
That's why I wanted to do this exercise first. Even if you have this layer of very light scribbles laid down, you can. That's like maybe a 3 or 4 on the value scale, what we talked about, right? You can still push and pull so that what was at one point, what seemed relatively dark in your drawing, i.e. maybe the inside right-hand side of the bowl or cup, whatever you're drawing, by comparison now seems lighter, and that's called relative value. So you start to read areas relative to other areas. And so you can make highlights, you can make things brighter by going darker in other areas, okay? Does that make sense? No?
yes,
Yes?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you don't need to erase in this drawing. If I wanted to make something look a little lighter, what would I need to do?
Put darker near it.
Near it, that's right. The other thing is, do you see any outlines, any edges, or I'm sorry, any outlines, let's put it that way, on the drawing?
No.
No. So all it is, I'm stopping at the right place. When I bundled my scribbles back here, I had in my mind's eye, a gentle arc that I wanted to draw, right? I did this bowl kind of out of my head. I didn't look at anything, but just to kind of, because I've drawn them so many times, right? So the reason I don't have an outline out here, the darker area, right, is because I took these scribbles and did what with them? Why don't I have a dark, I could do a scribbly outliney sort of thing here, but it doesn't read that way. Why doesn't it read that way?
Because you didn't do a line.
I know why not? What did I do to prevent that from happening? Or I could have done like little scribbles right along there to draw. And I see that all the time with students. They'll, oh, I'm not doing an outline, but I'll do like a bundle of little scribbles along that top edge, right? To differentiate. So I'm essentially doing an outline. Why does mine not read that way?
Because instead you shade around the edges.
Yeah, I go outward. I take that shading outward into the background and just sift it into this big open area here, right? That's why it's so important to address every part of your drawing. So the reason this doesn't read like an outline right here, I could have done little bundles of scribbles and just kind of stuck out right there, right? Hung out right there. Is that I immediately went out into here and filled all that in. Okay. Same here. How about this transition right here? Can you see any difference between the inside and outside? Like right in here? Pretend you're not seeing the rest of the bowl, you know, kind of block that out maybe. Is there what would be called a no man's land in here?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it still looks like the front of the bowl, right?
Right.
Right. So that's inference, right? We're inferring an edge there, right? So you don't have to be 100% precise with your drawing. Let some areas of no man's land stay there, okay? Would this be a no man's land up here?
Yes.
Yep. Yep. Look at this. I can read. This is all, there's no edge there, right? But it's all, I can see, oh, yeah, that's background. There's the front of the bowl, right? And the other thing that gives you is this idea of thickness of the bowl itself. There's a thickness to the ceramic of the bowl, right? So kind of leaving that stuff open and not being a control freak allows you to infer the thickness of the bowl at the same time, right? Because you're not relying on one crisp edge to draw that. Now you can do it, but we'll do that in the midweek. But okay. Now, because this was an iPad drawing, I had to go in and lighten some areas here with a white mark. Because it's digital drawing, okay? I have examples in some videos. I'm not gonna show you today, but you'll see, there's one where I just go all, it's a very long drawing. It's me looking down at the bowl with some plates. It might be worth watching, I don't know. You know, it's up to you. It's there if you wanna see it. And this is the one I did of where I don't subtract, right? You know, and these, you know, this is the one that I'm talking about there. So this moves, I don't know, this was like a 6, 7, 8 hour drawing. Here's what I was looking at. You know, you guys, you can do your, so there's the kind of what I was viewing, right? Looking down at a bowl. So it's a much more open, we'll talk about that on Wednesday. But here's how I started it, right? No outline. So that video is there for you to watch if you want to, okay? Again, it's like watching the grass grow, but if you want to learn to draw, you know, this will at least show you how much of a discipline it is, right? You know, how much you got to kind of just pace yourself when you want to make a really nice drawing. Let's move ahead a little bit. So gathering the, you know, as Jeremy said, just kind of let the marks gather a little bit, not pushing much harder. I'm just kind of letting them gather. I have no clean cut, you know, this is probably 3 hours into the drawing or so too. No clean cut edges yet, right? We'll do more of this next week, but with a different subject, but a little bit. See, there's, I'm thinking in my head, you know, what's the height to width? We'll talk about that later. So I'm kind of, you know, talk about that in this video, this visual measurement, but we're going to do that on Wednesday. So no need to worry about that. But I just want to kind of show you how over a long period of time, if you're gentle enough with your mark making, right? you can really get a nice sense of resolution in a drawing. Just fast forwarding here.
But we would have much less than this done.
Yes, yeah, probably, yeah. I want you to just get started. You've done it before, Paulette, so
I did a styrofoam cup, but
yeah, and it's really nice. Yeah.
I have a ceramic cup.
Okay. So you can see how you just need to take your time with it, right? With the drawing. I don't expect you to spend the 3 hours or 4 hours or whatever it took her. It was probably longer than that on this drawing. So form first and shape second in a certain way with this drawing, right? So there's where I'm getting close to the end of it. It's even not finished, but it's a nice light, airy drawing. So what, and there's where it started, right? Just bundling scribbles over time. Okay. So it's a nice technique. Let me just show you one more. So this is the one that I used as a sample for the cup, right? I took the picture of the cup and I actually had that there as I was developing the drawing. So this one might be a good one for you to watch on your own, okay? And I narrate this one as well. So, but essentially that paradigm, right? Dark background, dark interior, light interior, dark front, right side, light. And you'll have a layer of scribbles on your drawing already, right? But then just let them gather, okay? Now, literally, you can use that photograph, use my example here, okay? But what I want you to do is draw it without doing an outline. I want you to really focus on this idea of developing via the use of piling up these really light scribbles. Now, ultimately, in a drawing, what you would do is you would do these really medium-sized loose scribbles to begin with, very light. And then over time, as you finish the drawing, your scribble marks get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, just like, pixels on a photograph, right? Big pixels, blurry picture. Small pixels, a lot more precise picture. We'll talk more about that later as well. But this is just getting started. So by the time I'm finishing up this drawing, I'm going a little bit smaller with my mark making there.
Do you want us to do all the measuring of the ellipse and everything?
No, don't get caught up in that this time, okay?
Just do it as...
Yeah, just do it whatever it feels like, okay? That's why I say you can use this photograph if you want to. Then you don't have to kind of start playing around with that visual measurement stuff, okay?
And lighting too, it helps just that it's constant. The lighting, yeah.
Yeah, and so now, if you're actually looking at a coffee cup, it's a much more difficult thing to navigate in terms of perspective, okay? If you have a flat picture in front of you, much easier, as we've talked about throughout the semester. Mm-hmm. So I'm want to be more focused on you controlling those scribbles and understanding the value relationships embedded in this drawing, and the buildup of value and the relative value, and not being a slave to kind of outline and all that sort of stuff. Than I am you interpreting elliptical form or a cup, okay? We'll do that Wednesday, okay? We won't do shadows on that one. That'll be a strictly analytical view of your own cup, your own bowl or whatever, okay, in real life, okay, from your point of view, from perspective. So we'll talk more about that on Wednesday. Now you can use you could use a full sheet if you want to do this, spend 15, 20 minutes just creating that nice gentle field, and then dive into looking at my cup and starting to carve out the form of the cup yourself. Or you can do a half sheet, just kind of tear your drawing in half. I'll leave that up to you. I kind of think it'd be cool to do a whole sheet drawing like this, just really big, oversized, either way you'll want to make the cup. See, mine is like, if this was a full sheet of paper, that's bigger than life size, right? So I think they're more powerful. Drawings are more powerful when you work that way. So doing a whole sheet might be a kind of a cool thing to play around, but you don't have to. You can do a half sheet if you want to. Okay, so what's that video? You can watch that on your own as you're doing this. You know, and this, I narrate this as I go, and I talk about relative value. In here is in that one document. Not this one. Where is it? I talk about, you know, I go into detail here. I'm not going to hold you, you know, to this one. Yeah. So I talk about, you know, light and shadow and relative value, cast shadow, you know, a little bit about, we'll talk a little more about that reflected light. So the reason it's a little lighter under here, see that light right there on the cup? That's reflected light. That's not getting direct light. So the light's coming down, hitting the surface in front of the cup, bouncing back up and getting reflected light. Okay, they call that reflected light. And then cast shadows here. Okay, so I go all into that in this document, so you can kind of skim through that. I mean, it's not a ton of information, but there's a lot here, right? So, and then a kind of a step-by-step thing, which I just outlined for you there. So in terms of, I had I think I don't know if I sent this out to everyone. This is, I think Sarah's on the left and Christine from the other classes on the right. So this is what I'm talking about in terms of that really light buildup of value, okay? These are their light scribble drawings. Now, you could easily see how one could carve out, you know, that's not too dark that you could still carve out. Too many screens going on here. I guess I closed that stuff down. Oh well. Oh, here it is. Now it's right in front of me. You could see how you could carve out of that, you know, something like that just by going darker and darker and darker. So the light areas, in essence, in these areas right here would be the original value that you laid down for that coding, right, of the drawing. Okay. Right. So what appears now is this medium gray because of the, you know, because of the layers and layers and layers of scribbles there, right? Turns into highlight in your drawing because you have darker areas next to it. Okay. So no erasing. You don't need to erase. Okay, so start out with this, okay? Start with that exercise of just kind of coating the paper with these. And it gets you loose and gets you starting to think about the space and all that sort of stuff and, you know, the mark making process. And I think it's a really nice way to draw. And then you're not uptight to be a perfectionist, you know, when you make the drawing, which often we are when we do outline or contour-based drawing. Okay, any questions? Now, you don't need to turn this in before Wednesday, okay? So I'm just introducing this, and then the other one is separate kind of drawings. And the same goes, you know, turn both of them in on Friday. You know, Friday, right? Is that one that things are due?
Yes, 26.
Yeah, Friday, right?
Friday, Saturday.
So try to meet that deadline if you can. Nobody ever does. Some people do, but I'm not. You know, as long as you get it done, that's all I care about. What else? I guess that's it.
But just to emphasize that not to erase, because in the video you do say to erase, that it's okay.
In which video did I say?
The first video, I know.
Oh, okay.
You talk about erasing.
Oh, do I? Okay, I made that a year ago. So
Yeah.
no, don't do that. I think I did it in that video because because I was using the digital medium, and it's really hard to control that, right? You know, so I had to do some subtraction. But that's correct. That is correct. No erasing. Yep. Thanks for pointing that out, Sarah. That's a good point there. And you can kind of see it in here. You know, let me blow this up. Just because of the digital media, I even had to do it on the iPad. but I did it in such a way it was like obliterating this edge a little bit, right? I went over the whole thing, you know, so, but I don't want you to do that, okay? I find that working digitally with these very fine scribble lines is much more difficult than actually putting pencil on paper. Remember to hold your pencil down at the end and just let the weight of the pencil do the work. It can be fun. I mean, it can be kind of just this like Zen kind of, you know, zoning out sort of thing where you're not having to be a lot of pressure to make it look perfect, right? You're just kind of let that pencil play across the surface of the paper. I love drawing this way. It's close to the idea of sketching, you know, but with a little bit more purpose than a sketch, kind of, you know, a little bit more of a kind of a conceptual and um, kind of planned out approach, right? With a like if it was totally a sketch, you would do it in 5 minutes maybe, and it would be you know, be a finished piece. But this is a little more kind of a longer time-based experience. So I wouldn't call it a sketch, but it's kind of the same as that in terms of the mark making, right? You know, just kind of freedom sort of thing. But you do it light enough and with enough control that freedom eventually turns into more controlled application of material, which ultimately can turn into, oh, something like this. Let me just show you where we'll, you know, what we'll talk about next week.
How long did you spend on this one? Several hours.
No, the bowl was probably a couple hours, maybe. Yeah, the cup was probably about the same, but that big bowl with the saucer underneath was longer. That was a 4 or 5 hour drawing. But eventually, those scribbles will turn into, you know, if you work, you know, if, like here's where I started. We'll talk about this next week with a more refined. So that's kind of where that I did a couple pumpkins last fall. So that's where that started, right? It's like 2.5 hours worth of really light scribbling, right? Can hardly see it, but I'm moving a lot. I'm moving my hand a lot in it. And then like 10 hours into the drawing, you see where it can go, right? The scribbles, they just overlap each other and you can get this really sense of refinement without, by the way, blending with your finger. There's no blending in that drawing. I'm visually blending just by overlapping marks in the drawing over a long period of time, right? And grabbing a darker pencil, you know, every so often just to be able to get these darks here. So this technique doesn't involve blending with your finger at all, okay, using this scribble technique or cumulative technique, okay? It's all additive, okay? I don't expect that at all with this drawing, okay? You know, I want it to be a lot more kind of freewheeling, okay, in this drawing. Any questions? No? Okay. Again,
So
don't have to have it done.
So the first layer is basically the exercise we did.
Yep, that's all.
That's our
basis.
basis.
Yep. Just
Okay.
do that exercise. Repeat that exercise again. 20 minutes probably be the best, you know, max. Now, you know, if you're too hard with that exercise, you get a dark mark on there. It's going to be hard to get that out of there because you can't erase it, right? So this really disciplines you to draw lightly to begin with. Okay. It's hard. But
we can use your photograph. Where will the photograph of the cup be?
I sent it with those 2 emails, or those 2. It should be on your email.
Okay.
Okay. If not, just let me know. I'll resend it. So. Okay. Think about relative value. Think about edge. Don't close the drawing in. Keep it open. Keep it free. Have fun with it. Don't worry about the form too much. Okay. I mean, the shape, you know, this modulation, you know, the way form rolls across, you're going to have to let go lighter or less marks in the middle, right? Because that's a medium value. You're going to hang out here longer, going to definitely hang out here longer, right? Push a little harder at the end of the drawing, not the beginning, okay? Let the darks come in at the end of the drawing, okay? Not at the beginning, etc. Okay? Let it build slowly. Literally, you can see, look at my drawing. You can see how I build it very slowly, right? It's right there in front of you, okay? That's not very dark over here. By the end of the drawing,
But that's more than a 2.5 hour drawing.
that's probably a 2 hour drawing doing that bowl on the iPad. I think I didn't go any longer than that. I don't think, but maybe I did. I don't think I did. So that was made up. I made that one up. I wasn't looking at anything, but okay.
Okay.
Any questions?
No.
Okay. All righty. Okay. Use this time to work. Again, it doesn't need to be turned in by Wednesday, but just to be able to, but allocate your time. Okay. If you can.